And a big part of this Islanders road trip, and I think that's a good
Mm.
transition into what our first topic of the night was going to be, which was go through and just discuss this Islanders road trip, which Mitch has been significantly better than what I think anyone could have possibly expected. They are 4-1 on this road trip, with some pretty big wins mixed in there. They beat the Rangers, they beat the Devils, they beat Utah, they beat Vegas, overtime wins. I know they just lost 4-1 to Colorado the other night, but as we were discussing in our post-game video on YouTube, that was tight the entire way until the final 45 seconds of that game.
It really was. And so you're seeing a much different team than what we've seen before, right? They're winning 4 out of their last 5 games, all of them on the road, as you mentioned, some of them within division even, right? So those are big 4-point games for us, whether you care about the playoffs or not. And the scoring is there. They're getting the goals. They're getting the production. It's all coming together pretty well for this team that is still not nearly anywhere near its peak. Like, there's a lot of change that's going to happen to this roster going forward in terms of adding better quality. Like, this feels like our floor for the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, it does feel like because there's the very beginning stages, right? Like,
Yes.
this is kind of year 1, but also kind of year 0, right? Because we're still trying to figure out, like, all right, who are my long-term answers here? And they have 22 points in 19 games, so they're a little over 500 right now. They are a fringe playoff team, and there's a lot, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the NHL in general. I feel like there's a lot of just teams in the middle right now, and the Islanders are one of those teams. But that's okay. Very different, and I know we've had this conversation on the pod before, but it's very different from the last 2 to 3 years where they've been in the middle, when there wasn't really a direction, right? It was like they were going for it, but they didn't have a deep enough roster, and they had no first round picks, and their prospect pool wasn't good. They were kind of just like mediocre team, like a 90-point team, plus or minus a few points depending on the year. That's not the case anymore, clearly, as Matthew Schaefer has been a superstar. I don't even have war. It's not, and the best part is it's not just Islanders fans gushing over him. It's the entire NHL and hockey community going like, we have not seen a defenseman come into the league at 18 years old and play like this. And it has been truly a joy to watch. But on top of that, you have 2 additional first round picks from this year. You have Cole Yzerman, who's back and was scoring goals at BU. And there's some other young players on this roster, Emil Heineman, one of them, who are playing really good hockey right now.
That's right. And so, like, they're getting contributions from key players. Like, they're still not necessarily a good team. If you're looking at the underlying numbers, the expected goals for over their last 5 games are not good. They're in the bottom of the league. They're not like bottom 3. I think it was 26th, at least at 5-on-5. Let me just get that back there again. Expected goals over the last 5 games across, or since their last 5 games across the NHL, the Islanders are 26th, in terms of expected goals for, 44.9. Corsi isn't much better at 45.7, which ranks them 25th. They're not good in terms of just underlying numbers, but they're getting key contributions from guys like Horvat. You mentioned Emil Heineman, obviously Matthew Schaefer, and Ilya Sorokin, man. Ilya Sorokin is doing the goddamn thing. He's stopping a lot of goals above expected, and that is keeping this not so great franchise in a pretty gosh darn good position. And again, it kind of reiterates the idea of this is their floor, because the guys that are producing right now are here for a while.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned Ilya Sorokin, and then there was another player who I don't think you even brought up yet that I wanted to mention too. But remember, we were talking the beginning of that, not even the beginning of the year, like 2 weeks ago, where we were concerned about Ilya Sorokin, and he ranked like there's, let's see, 74 goalies right now who have played games this year, and he was in the 50s in goals saved above expected. He is all the way up at number 8 in the league now. Which is like, usually that's where you find him. Usually he's somewhere in the top 10. And the hope for me personally, and I'm sure you as well, is that the save percentage and goals against start to reflect that over a longer period of time, which I think assuming he stays in that range, which is where he's been most of his career, then that's likely to happen. And then in addition to that, I think we got to show some love to Matt Barzal too, who's played really well since coming back from the alarm clock gate issue.
Yes, which was a something burger, but people made it into a much bigger burger than it actually was. You're absolutely right. He's got 4 points in his last 5 games. I haven't seen further because that's all I can see right now. But 15 points over the last 18 games on the season in 18 games, and it's pretty goddamn good, man. Corsi's above 53%. What is his face-off percentage? 69% of the face-off dot. Last night, two games ago or 3 games ago, 62.5%, like 57% the time before that. Like, sure, on the season, his average is 37.2, but something seems to be clicking for Matthew Barzal, at least in terms of the face-off numbers over the last couple of games here.
Yeah, and he was just riding a 6-game point streak that came to an end against Colorado. So that's 6 points in his last 7 games, 15 points in 18 games on the year. There's only been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games this year where he hasn't recorded a point. So he's usually like very involved in the Islanders offense. And I think, I'd like to see him closer to a point per game. Right now it's Bo Horvat, who's like way exceeding that. He has 23 in 19 games, which he's just been absolutely unbelievable to start this year. But with Barzal playing the way that he has over the last 7 games or so, we'll call it, that's a really good sign for their top 2 guys in this offense.
That's right. The only issue there with Matthew Barzal in terms of the offense, it feels like that line hasn't really gelled yet. So the line of Matthew Barzal and Drouin, and who's on the other side of him? It's not Palms, right?
I'm going to pull it up right now because there's been some shuffling, so I don't want to speak out of tune here.
Yeah, because I thought Palms was up on top with Bo and Heineman, but I think it's Palms.
No, it's Holmstrom. Drouin and Holmstrom with Barzal.
Of course. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just not gelled yet. There's quality there. But they might have to make a change there when we're going to get to that a little bit here. But I think that line hasn't really gelled offensively just yet. And so maybe for a little bit more time to cook, maybe they kind of, pick something up there. But I don't really care for the idea of Matthew Barzal and Jonathan Drouin together. They seem like 2 similar players, but I've stated that case before, and that's not what we're here to talk about here. But you're right. Matthew Barzal has been producing for this team and is doing the goddamn thing. So it's not enough, but you'll take 15 points in 18 games, a pace of like 70 some odd points over the year from Matthew Barzal, knowing that there's a possibility for even more.
Well, without a doubt. And knowing there's a possibility for even more. And just while we're on the topic of the road trip too, like, he's obviously performed really well on this road trip. And, this is a team that is 4-1 through their first 5 games. There's 2 more games left on the road trip. Even if they lose those 2 games, which I don't want them to, but I think going into it, you look at that 8-game road trip, and if we said the Islanders would go 5-3 on that road trip, even if it ends with 3 losses in a row, I think you're taking that over an 8-game trip.
Absolutely. 1000%, right? Because we said 500. They can just do 500, will be okay. So 500 on it. Was it 7-game road trip or 8?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm sorry.
Right.
So it'd be 4-3. I apologize.
Still, right? That's a winning record. They leave that road trip with what is probably going to be a winning record. That's amazing. That's so much better than we thought we were, which is obviously big because we want to be better than we actually thought we were. Going forward, it's because, again, it comes back to the idea of, as you mentioned numerous times, that it's an evaluation year. So you're evaluating how good this team actually is. Where is the actual baseline for this team? When you go on a 7-game road trip at the beginning of the year and you start not clobbering people, but picking up wins at a significant rate, that kind of raises the bar. Does it raise it definitively? Not so much, but it's definitely raised it temporarily, where expectations now are probably a little bit higher for Matthew Barzal, going like, well, this team might actually be better than we think it is. What does that mean? I think it doesn't like permanently change his opinion. I think it temporarily changes it. Like, this is where I'm at right now. Let's see if they can sustain that.
I was gonna say this doesn't change anything plans wise
No.
for me. I think you still look to trade JG Pajot
Yes.
and cash in when his value's at the highest, which right now, like with how he's been playing, I think 100%. You know, they could get a very big return for him. He's going to be one of the biggest centers on the market at the trade deadline. Which I'm not saying you're going to get a Brock Nelson return. He got a high end prospect and a first round pick. But I think you get at least a first round pick for JG Pajot, and that's going to be really tough for a team that's transitioning to pass up on.